Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for a CFA Society San Francisco webinar on performance. We have Kal Ghayur, a distinguished keynote speaker and an accomplished global finance leader with more than 35 years of experience across investment management, research, and executive leadership. He has served as CEO of Westpeak Global Advisors and managing director at Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, MSCI, and HSBC, where he built and led high-performing global teams and helped advance innovations in quantitative investing and smart beta strategies. We're pleased to have Cal with us today. He is also a long-standing contributor to CFA Institute, a two-term governor, trustee of the Research Foundation, editorial board of the FAJ, and founding president of the CFA Society UK. With that, I would love to turn it over to Cal, and we're very excited to have you today. Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much, Eric. Before we start, just a quick question. I don't see anybody from my side in terms of who's joined and who's not. How many participants do we have today?
We have 14 today, right now, and it's
Okay, one.
still coming in. Yep.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you everyone for joining. Today we're going to talk about a new performance model, which we call composed performance model. It's a system for performing under pressure. One of the central messages that I want to deliver to you today is that when we find ourselves under situations of stress, it is very difficult to get out of those situations from a cognitive point of view or from a psychological point of view. In other words, when you are under pressure and under stress, you cannot think your way out of stress. So for example, if your heart rate is elevated because you are under tremendous pressure and you're nervous and so on, you can't just tell your heart rate to slow down. It doesn't work that way. You can't just tell your brain to tell your heart to slow down. It just doesn't work that way. You have to do it from a physiological level. You have to do something biologically to make your heart rate go down. And that is what we are going to talk about today. How do you physiologically control your nervous system when you are under pressure and under stress so that you can still deliver your peak performance? So as I go through this presentation, I'm not sure exactly how it works because I don't see the participants, but if you have any questions and if you can, if we can hear you, please raise your hand or interrupt me if some clarification is needed.
We will
So,
have everyone put their questions into the Q&A box, Cal, and if you open that box as well, you'll be able to see those questions come in, and we can answer them as appropriately needed.
okay. Eric, will you interrupt me because my screen is very small since I'm
Sure,
sharing the
you
thing.
got it.
If you have
Yep,
a question, you can interrupt me.
sure.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Okay, so we have this performance problem, and you've all seen this before. We have very smart people underperforming at critical moments, professionals who are really well trained, well prepared, and yet they lose their cognitive clarity when they're under pressure. So why is all this happening? It's happening not because skill itself is failing, it's happening because the access to skill is failing in moments of high pressure. You see, the performance model that we have used traditionally just basically stipulates that performance is a function of skill, where skill is defined as technical expertise, it's defined as the knowledge you have, it's defined as experience. So all the technical things that you would need to perform really well. The assumption in this traditional performance model is that skill, if you have skill, then you can deliver consistent performance independently of circumstances and situations. However, the reality, as we all know, is very different. In pressure situations, some people, even the highly skilled people, sometimes underperform because the access to skill is blocked by the pressure and the stress. So the limiting factor is not the skill itself. The limiting factor becomes your nervous system and your level of composure in those high stress situations. So the new, more practical model is what we call the composed performance model, which basically states that performance is not just a function of skill, it's a function of skill times composure. Skill is what defines what you can actually do, what you can deliver. Composure, on the other hand, determines whether you can do it when it's needed the most. And the impact of composure here is multiplicative. Notice that it's not skill plus composure, because if it was skill plus composure, it would make skill independent of composure. Instead, it's a multiplicative effect where composure is the variable which determines how much access you have to your level of skill and therefore to your level of performance. If composure, for instance, is 1, then you have perfect access to your skill. But imagine if composure is 0. If you completely collapse under pressure, cannot have your cognitive knowledge and you're cognitively impaired, then of course performance will suffer significantly. So that's what the composed performance model is ascertaining here. So let's talk about composure. What exactly is composure? Well, composure is not the lack of stress or lack of pressure. Composure is the ability to consistently remain clear, calm, and in control and steady when you are in the presence of stress and pressure. Composure is something that determines the access or controls the access to skill under pressure, as we've already discussed. It's a physiological state. It's a nervous system condition, okay? How steady you are under pressure. Now, there are a lot of misconceptions about composure. A lot of people think it's a personality trait, it's a talent, it's a temperament, it's something you are born with. We hear this all the time in the professional environment that we operate in. But composure is none of that. It is not a personality trait, a talent, a temperament, or something you are born with. It is a nervous system condition that you can learn to regulate. Now, the importance of composure is that composure, with or without composure, leads to a tremendous performance gap, or can lead to a tremendous performance gap. When you are in a high stress and pressure situation, with composure, you have emotional regulation. You have thoughtful responses. You have clear decision making. And you have a very steady presence. But if you don't have composure under stress, then you may end up with a situation characterized by emotional hijack, narrowed cognition, poor communication, reactive behavior. And that is what creates a tremendous performance gap. Now, we can learn from the highly competitive field of sports how elite performance, performers in sports use composure. And the bottom line is that composure in this highly competitive field of sport is what separates good from great. The point being that the technical skill differences are obviously there between the good and the great, but they are not as large as the differences in composure. Take the case of tennis as a sport. Djokovic, Nadal, Federer, the big three, won about 54% of the points that they played throughout their career. That's roughly, it's very close to 50-50. So basically, they won a little bit more than half the points they played. But yet, they won almost 85% of the matches that they played. So, in other words, they were really, really good at winning the points that mattered the most. Djokovic, for instance, has the best tie-break record in the sport of tennis. And he was asked once, well, how is it that you are able to win these really critical points during tie breaks? What is it about your technique or something that you do which helps you win all these really important points? And Djokovic's response was not that has to do something with technique. He said, the thing that contributes the most, in my case, is conscious breathing, controlled breathing. In between points, I have 25 seconds to do something to lower my heart rate, have a lot of oxygen flowing into my blood through respiration, have oxygen go to my brain so that I can control my thinking. I have clarity in terms of what I do, what I need to do next. 25 seconds in a live match to do that. And that's exactly what he does. Federer talks very openly about remaining calm and training himself in the gym to remain calm so that he can reproduce that calm in a match situation. Tom Brady in football, Michael Jordan in basketball, all have talked about the importance of winning the critical moments through composure. So the lesson really is that the great in the highly competitive world of sport, they don't just dominate each and every moment, and we know that they don't, but they do dominate the moments that truly matter in a match. And so the workplace parallel is very straightforward, really. Career-defining moments mirror match-defining points. There are situations in our careers where we know that if we win this particular client, if this particular presentation goes well, that would have a huge impact on our careers. If we're presenting to a client and the CEO of your company is also present in that meeting, well, that's a career-defining moment. And if you can keep your composure to deliver an amazing presentation, then it will help your career in the long run. So basically, the point being that, like sports, optimal performance in key moments compounds to create a significant career advantage over time. Yes, Eric?
Cal, so we have a question from Valentina, and she's asking, how does composure relate to stoicism, in which we elect how we will respond to a situation?
Sorry, say that again. How does
How
composure?
does composure related to stoicism, in which we elect how we will respond to a situation?
Sorry, could you explain to me what you mean by that question exactly? Can we have her?
Let me see. Valentina, you've been unmuted if you'd like to ask.
Great. No, thank you. Appreciate that. So, we're told as financial analysts and folks that do operate in often very highly stressed situations, that we have the ability to elect how we will respond to a situation. We may not control the situation. We don't have to have an opinion on it. But what Stoicism would indicate is you always have the option of how you want to react. So I would like you to address like how this relates how that concept of choosing how you will react relates to what you're discussing here on composure.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, now I understand the context in which the question was asked. Yes, so we will talk about how you actually attain composure, and we will talk about the 5 levers of composure in a minute. And Valentina, at that point, we will talk about mindset as being one of the levers of composure, and that's where we will talk about how we do that.
Great, thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Any other questions? Eric, shall I continue?
No, please continue.
Okay. All right. So to end this particular section, there are 2 critical reframes. Number 1, under pressure, willpower is not enough. And that's a little bit different than what we just talked about, Valentina, because we're talking about trying to control a nervous system state psychologically. And that's very, very hard to do through willpower. And you cannot think your way out of a when your nervous system is being challenged and it's being activated. What you have to do, and that's the critical reframe number 2, is that performance regulation must start biologically. And if that is the case, then composure becomes a trainable nervous system skill. The key message, okay? So let's now look into composed performance and how exactly, what exactly is composed performance and how exactly can we train ourselves to attain composure in real life situations. So composed performance, as we've just mentioned, is an ability to consistently access composure in real time and under situations of stress. How would we do that in our work environment? Well, there are 2 segments to doing it. One is that you have to do composure training. It's called composure conditioning. It's very much like strength training of the nervous system. You go to the gym and you train your system in a low pressure environment. Okay? And you build the strength that would be needed in competition, in real life work situations, high pressure, high stakes situations. Think of Djokovic, think of Federer and the examples I gave earlier on. The fact that Djokovic can take 25 seconds to reduce his heart rate and increase the flow of oxygen to his brain so that he can think clearly, it doesn't happen in matches unless he trains in the gym. He knows exactly what he's supposed to do, how it's supposed to feel in his body, and he will know once he has that feeling that it's working, right? Without the conditioning, without the training, it becomes impossible to just apply something in a real life situation and a situation that's characterized by extremely high pressure. So the first step in acquiring the skill to regulate your nervous system is composure conditioning, where you actually do some practices to condition and train your nervous system. And then, with the help of that training, you do situational composure regulation, where you apply the training that you have in real life situations under moments of pressure and stress. And you deploy that capability in order to access skill on demand. That's the end result. That's what we want to do. We want to maintain our level of composure so that we can access the skills which will then deliver performance. And the compounding advantage here of doing all of this is that, as we just discussed, that small improvements in critical moments accumulate over time during your career. They compound over time during your career. And with that, you achieve the competitive edge that is needed. And that is why we have a very strong belief that composed performance is the new competitive edge. In other words, your ability to develop a skill which allows you to regulate your nervous system on demand in real time under high pressure situations is going to become a significant source of competitive advantage for professionals going forward. So how do we do all of that? So composure can be regulated by the 5 levers of composure. These 5 levers of composure are breath, voice, body, mindset, and focus. Breath regulates the rhythm, the vagal tone, the arousal, how agitated we are, and so on and so forth. It's a calm physical stress. Can be used to calm physical stress very, very quickly. There is a lot of science and research and articles that have been published which have shown that even a few minutes of breathing, breath work, specifically breath work with some characteristics where, for example, the exhale is much longer than the inhale, where you introduce breath holds, etc., has been found to be very effective in significantly reducing your heart rate in a very short period of time, literally in a matter of minutes. So it's the most effective lever to reduce a lot of the symptoms of an agitated nervous system. Voice, on the other hand, is vibration and resonance based. There are a lot of stress in your body, in your chest, in your throat, in your face, in the jaw, etc., which can only be resolved or reduced through vibration and resonance, and voice is a lever that does that. It's the only lever that does that. There is a lot of stress in the body that we carry all day long because of our posture, because of lack of grounding, because of lack of alignment in the body. And that is something that can be rectified very easily through posture and alignment using the body as a lever for stress regulation. Mindset is another lever. The thing about mindset here, we're not talking about mantras or anything like that. The thing about mindset, the thing to understand about mindset is that our mind contains thousands of thoughts all the time. And the presence of thoughts themselves is not what creates stress. What creates stress is when we interact with the thoughts. When we start arguing with our thoughts, that is what creates stress. So mindset as a lever for composure regulation is used to reframe thinking, okay? We have to completely reframe thinking in order for our nervous system to not be threatened by it. Let me give you a really simple example and sticking again with tennis. Lindsay Davenport was representing the U.S. in the Davis Cup, and she was under high pressure. She calls one of the big great players of tennis and says, "Hey, I'm representing the U.S. I'm under tremendous pressure." And she says, to Billie Jean King, she says, "Billie, what can I do to control the pressure?" And Billie Jean King turns around and says, "Hey, pressure is a privilege." Okay? think of the fact that you put yourself in a situation where you are able to represent your country. How proud a moment is that for you? So it's not pressure, it's a privilege. Go out there, compete, and have fun and feel the privilege of being in that moment. That's a reframe of the mind which tells your nervous system, hey, everything is okay, calm down. It's not a threat. To the contrary, it's excitement. It's an exciting moment, you know. So don't get too overactivated by it. So that's the kind of mindset reframing that needs to be done in order to regulate the nervous system. And Valentina, that's the kind of thing that we are taught in terms of how, when it comes to mindset conditioning, that there are many practices or exercises that can be conducted in order to reframe the threat. By the way, the mind also has a tendency to overestimate risk. In other words, the mind always goes towards the negative situations first and places a lot more emphasis on the negative outcomes compared to the positive outcomes. And so, one of the other features, the other things that mindset as a lever is supposed to do in the context of composure regulation is to restore the right perspective. In other words, not overestimate the amount of risk and outcome, negative outcomes. Okay, and again, there are a lot of exercises that can be done to do that. And again, focus is the final one where you sharpen attention and you reduce the mental noise in order to keep the focus and keep your cognitive ability during moments of pressure. So look, the point being that there is tremendous amount of science behind all of these levers in terms of their ability and capability to manage composure under stress and under pressure. Breath, voice, and body are known as bottom-up levers. In other words, these are the levers that originate from the body and they send a signal through your vagus nerve to your mind saying, hey, mind, calm down. Everything is okay. There's no threat here. Okay? And then mindset is a top-down lever. It starts from the mind and it tells the body to slow down and body to basically say, no threat here. You can remain calm. And focus is a hybrid lever. Sometimes it affects the body and tells from the body to the goes from the body to the brain, and sometimes it goes from the brain to the body. But that's basically the bottom line in terms of the 5 levers of composure and how they can be used. Now, you may ask, well, why do we have 5 levers? Well, simply because stress does not show up in the same way all the time. Sometimes it is physical, right? You just feel a lot of physical tension in the chest, in the throat, and so on. And guess what? In that particular case, voice, vibration, and resonance would be a really good primary lever to address that stress. Sometimes it's emotional. Sometimes it's mental. Sometimes it has something to do with meaning and identity. So the 5 levers is not duplicating a lot of different stuff. No, it is not redundancy, it is coverage. We're trying to cover the various sources of stress and how they give rise to different emotional, physical, and mental stuff that is happening, and how we can use those levers to control stress in the situation. So each lever regulates stress through a different pathway, but all aim to restore access to composure and skill under pressure. Now, let's talk a little bit about implementation. We've talked about the concept, we've talked about the logic, we've talked about the framework. So how do we actually implement all of that? Well, in our system, we implement this kind of stuff, composure, nervous system regulation, through two different segments. So one is conditioning, which is implemented through what we call foundations. So these are 3-minute practices, and they use a single lever in order to train under low pressure and in order to build the capacity to regulate your nervous system under stress. Okay, so foundations would be breath foundations. So these would be exercises geared towards breathing, voice foundations, focus foundations, and so on. So single lever training in low pressure. And then we have boosts, which are also practices that rely on the conditioning that you have done in the low pressure environment in order to attain composure in high stress situations during real life. And these deployment of composure is taking place during, before, during, or after crucial work moments. So basically, foundations are practices and exercises that are used to train the nervous system, and then boosts are practices that deploy that training in real time for composure regulation. Now, let's talk about composure conditioning, how it works. Let's take the example of breath foundations. So when stress arrives, what happens? Well, if you are in a situation where you're anticipating a really difficult situation to arise very shortly, as an example, then your heart rate increases. Your breathing becomes fast and shallow. The respiratory rate increases as a result of your breathing becoming fast and shallow. So breath foundations are designed to do two things. First of all, they are designed to reverse the physiology. What's the physiology? The physiology is that your heart rate is increased, your breathing becomes fast and shallow. So the first thing that breath foundations are doing is to reverse all of that. So we do breath work where we do deep breathing exercises. We do longer exhales in order to lower the heart rate and reduce reactivity. So that's the first thing, and it's physiological in nature, okay? The second thing, this is very much like what Djokovic is doing in between points, bringing his heart rate down. But the second piece is even more important. The second piece is trying to normalize the stress signals. So in other words, we know that when stress arrives, there are situations where it will create a mild air hunger. In other words, we are having difficulty breathing, and we have to perform in that environment where we are hungry for air. Okay? We are during stress, we find ourselves in elevated CO2 with elevated CO2 levels. Carbon dioxide increases. It puts a strain on the nervous system. And we know that we would have to operate again in that condition. So how do we retain composure when we have these stress signals in place? Well, we train for them. In the gym, in a low rate environment, we create a practice, we create an exercise which basically creates mild hunger, air hunger, which increases the CO2 levels. And we train in the sense that we tell our body, hey, when this happens, it's okay. You don't need to go into a parasympathetic, into a sympathetic activation, okay? You don't need to go into a fight and flight response. You can remain calm even if these conditions exist. Let me give you a simple example to understand this, because this is really critical. As you all know, there are a lot of benefits in doing ice baths and taking cold showers and things like that from the perspective of the body. So there is one other benefit of taking a cold shower and making that a part of your routine, as an example, which is that even a 15 second cold shower basically regulates your body and tells your body to remain calm even when you have some level of physical discomfort. See, the first time you take a cold shower, it is not going to feel good. You'll be anticipating a lot of, bad feelings or whatever, discomfort and so on. But if you keep doing it, then it becomes routine. Your body knows how to deal with it. And your nervous system will just learn to remain very calm even when you're taking a cold shower. And so the same logic applies. If you train your nervous system to remain calm under conditions of stress, then when stress actually arrives and creates those conditions, your nervous system would have been conditioned to remain calm. And that's what the conditioning is all about. So in our system, the conditioning goes through 4 phases. And again, as an example for breath foundations, we have phase 1, which is safety. So it just tells you how to understand how breathing actually works and so on. Phase 2, then introducing some rhythmic breathing or controlled breathing, or what Djokovic calls conscious breathing. Phase 3 is now creating stress environment and teaching your nervous system to tolerate those stress levels. So elevated CO2 levels, mild air hunger, and so on. And phase 4 becomes precision. How do you maintain composure when the level of stress and the conditions created by stress are very high? So composure without stress is what we are training for. And then composure despite stress is what we obtain in the end. Okay? So composure conditioning has got nothing to do with relaxation. If you're thinking about, well, we're doing a lot of breath work, is this really meditation or relaxation? No, it's got nothing to do with that. It's the same technique, it's the same lever, but it's used in a very, very different context. It's used as a training tool for composure under situations and challenges posed by stress and pressure. So here are some typical exercises that, for example, or practices that we would conduct. The first one, which reduces the level of stress or the heart rate and so on, is an extended exhale breathing. And in many scientific studies, it has been shown that this works extremely well and very, very quickly. So the idea here is to inhale through the nose for 4 seconds and then exhale through the mouth with pursed lips for 8 seconds. So in other words, the exhale is twice as long as the inhale. And that's what is known as the extended exhale breathing, which has been shown to be significantly effective in reducing the heart rate very, very quickly in a matter of minutes, 2-3 minutes. So shall we try some of these exercises right now as a group? Is there interest in doing that?
Go ahead and raise your hand if you're interested in doing this exercise with Cal. Let's do it, Cal.
Okay. All right. So we're going to do a lot of exercises then if you're interested. Okay. Um, let me give you the count. And then, as we said, inhale through the nose for 4, and then exhale through the mouth, pursed lips, as if you are blowing a candle, like this, for 8 seconds. All right. Ready? Breathe in. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's do it again. Ready? Breathe in. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you do this for 2 minutes. You can count silently in your mind. Do this for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and you will feel the difference. It's guaranteed. Next exercise. Let's now create, this is exactly what happens under stress. CO2 tolerance ladder is an exercise which basically will tell your nervous system to remain calm when CO2 levels are rising because of stress and pressure. So in this exercise, we're going to inhale for 4, exhale for 4, and then hold for 4. In the next round, we will inhale for 4, exhale for 4, and then hold for 6. And then in the next round, we will inhale for 4, exhale for 4, and then hold for 8. And this, by the end of this round, the 3 rounds, you will feel something in your body which is telling you, hey, I need, the CO2 levels are high, are rising. Okay? But in doing this exercise and doing it again and again, we are just training our body to remain calm despite that stress condition. So let's do this. Okay? Ready? Breathe in. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Ready? Breathe in. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ready? Breathe in. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4. And hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Did you feel the difficulty increasing?
Yes.
All right, now let's do something which actually is even more difficult. This one is going to create air, reduced breathing is going to create air hunger. You're going to want more air. So the way this works is that we breathe normally to start. So for me, my normal breathing would be something like this. Right? So there's no count in it. That's just my normal breathing. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to breathe slightly less than usual in every round. Okay, so I'm going to go like this. I'm breathing less and less and less and less and creating an air hunger. Okay, so try doing it for 30 seconds or something. So start with your normal breathing and then breathe, inhale a little less, exhale a little less, then inhale a little less, exhale a little less, and just do it for about 30 seconds. Ready? Go. Okay. Feeling some air hunger? Okay. So you see that
Absolutely, and a little bit of anxiety as well, Cal.
yes, absolutely. So exactly, and that is the point, is that if you keep doing this and condition your nervous system, then when anxiety does arrive and air hunger does arrive, your system will not freak out. It would have been conditioned to remain composed. Think of the cold shower. Okay, let's do one other thing, just a couple of others. So let's do a foundation on a sigh or a hum. So in this case, we inhale through the nose and then we exhale on a gentle sigh or a silent hum. Let me show you a couple of things about sigh. So the sighs are very, very important and again have been shown to be very effective in reducing the heart rate and so on. So you can do a breath sigh, which simply goes like this, like you're fogging up a mirror, okay? So breathe through the nose and then a breath sigh. You can do a nasal sigh, which goes like this. Hmm. 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 Okay. You can do an ah sigh. Ah. 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 You can do a yawn sigh. Ah. Ah. Okay, all these different sighs are extremely useful and very effective in reducing the heart rate and creating a lot of release of tension in the chest and everywhere else. But humming and other voices like vowel tones are also extremely effective. The thing about humming is that think of humming as massaging your body from the inside. That's exactly what vibration does. When you hum, your vocal cords are getting together and vibrating. And that vibration is spreading through the body. And the spreading of vibration is called resonance. So when you hum, and you hum in different places in your body, you are actually massaging your body from the inside. So a simple hum like if you don't mind, do it with me. Let's take a deep breath in and then hum, and then put your hand on your chest and feel the vibration in your chest. Now put your hand on the throat and do the same hum and feel the vibration there. Now put the hand on your nose and your face and do the same hum. You should be able to feel the vibration and the resonance that it creates in different parts of your body. And that is why this lever is so effective, because it is massaging your body from the inside and releasing all the stress that you carry all day long in your chest, in your throat, in your jaw, in your face, and the accumulation of that stress over time creates really a lot of negative impacts on the nervous system. Let's do one other thing, which is focus as the foundation or the lever. And here we're going to talk about, about having a focus anchor. So breathe in normally and breathe out normally, but this time place your attention on the sensation of the air at the nostrils, in the nose. So you should feel cold air going in and warm air coming out. And keep your focus at the nostrils so that you can feel the cold air coming in and warm air going out. Let's do that together. Ready? Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. This exercise in scientific studies has been shown to be very effective in reducing mental noise and providing greater clarity under states of stress. How are we on time, Eric?
We have about 8 minutes.
Okay.
But we can go over a little bit, but
Okay. So now let's talk about, this was all about composure conditioning, how we can condition the nervous system and so on. Let's talk about how do we apply that conditioning in situational composure regulation, meaning in real life situations. So it is a lot easier to classify real life situations along certain variables in order to then understand how the application or how the deployment of conditioning would actually work. So in our system, we classify the regulation piece under time-based and under state-based. So time-based simply means that we are talking about before situations, during situations, or after situations. And here we are mostly referring to work situations. So for example, before a high stakes meeting, you are anticipating something, okay? So the anticipatory nervous system activation is in place. During a difficult conversation, or after an emotionally charged call. All these things have very different impact on the nervous system. And that's why the boosts or the practices or the exercises have to be slightly different. Now, a lot of the time, the stress may not be situational in nature. It may just be based on state. In other words, for instance, you are just feeling agitated, not particularly because of a situation or something, but maybe an accumulation of various situations over the last week or something, and now you're in a state where you're just overactivated, you're wired, you are agitated, or you are emotionally charged, or you are underactivated, meaning you're just fatigued, you're just don't feel good, you just feel very fatigued. So the boosts that can be used in those situations of state. So the time-based situations are profession specific in our model. So we can make the situations specific to the world of finance or to the world of medical, for example, healthcare professionals, or we can make them specific to student life, as an example. And they are context specific, meaning situation specific. State-based conditions, on the other hand, are profession agnostic. They are just states of the nervous system, and we all have one nervous system. And they are physiologically specific, right? They're basically targeting a certain physiology. So here is an example of some time-based situation. So for example, before situations, as I said, are anticipation in nature. So before a performance review, before a high stakes meeting, before explaining underperformance to a client or something like that, or before an interpersonal conflict. You're going into a meeting where you're expecting a lot of conflict to take place, and you're anticipating all that, and your mind is anticipating all that. After situations could be very different, or situations, the nervous state system activation could be very different. So the same situation can result in different nervous system activation depending on whether it's before the situation or after the situation. And the state-based situations, as I said, they are more or less agnostic and profession-wise, but they are common across all of us, all individuals. So under overactivated, it could be wired, anxious, panicky, overwhelmed, agitated, irritable. Under underactivated, you could be fatigued, drained, flat, disengaged, and so on. So these are the different situations. So now let's do a couple of examples since we are you guys were interested in doing some practices today. So let's look at a pre-meeting focus. So you are going into a meeting. Yes, Eric?
I'm just going to practice with you.
Okay, great. So you're going into a meeting, a very important meeting, and you just want to do a focus reset. So here is a focus reset. Step one is we're going to use the lever of body lever, to settle through stillness. So in this particular exercise, because it's based on stillness, it works a lot better if you do close your eyes. In a lot of these practices, we don't require you to close your eyes. To the contrary, in many exercises, you need to focus on something, so you need your eyes to be open. But in this particular one, I would request that you close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing that, or you just soften your gaze, and then have sit upright, lengthen your spine, lengthen your neck so that you are upright and not, leaning forward. And now close your eyes and just sit still for 30 seconds. Just as still as you possibly can. Notice if there is something happening in your body. If some muscles are twitching, something else happening, you are not making any effort other than to just remain completely still. Now remain still and move your focus to your breathing. Inhale and exhale through the nose, but keep your attention focused on the nostrils. Cold air going in, warm air coming out, and remain completely still. One last breath. Very slow inhale, slow exhale. Remain still. And now you can open your eyes. Welcome back. And that's a focus reset. It should have cleared your mind. It should have taken a lot of stress, physical stress, out of your body. Did it work, Eric, for you?
It did work. And we do have a question which might be answered by your next step two, but we have a question from Eric. My biggest challenge is when the situation is heating up. My mental state is so occupied that to realize that I am a lake of composure, realize that I'm a lake of composure. Any suggestion or practice do you recommend it to improve this type of situation?
So the exercise that we just did, the focus exercise, is very effective in doing that. Sometimes when you're also anxious and you completely lack composure, it has to do with time and the compression of time and the pressure that you feel because you have to take a decision very quickly, and you are under tremendous time pressure. And that raises the level of anxiety. So let's talk about that, and then we can come back at the end to see if we answered Eric's question or if we need to do more. So here is a time compression reset. So in this, we will do, again, 2 steps. In the first step, the focus is on breath and focus as the lever. So we inhale, and then, so this is called cyclic sighing, by the way, the breath work here. So you inhale, you take a little pause, and then you inhale again, the second inhale, and then a slow breath sigh. So basically you go like this. Okay? So you inhale, you pause, you inhale again, and the whole idea of the double inhale is that it allows you to breathe deeper. In other words, it's a much deeper inhale than what you would get with a single inhale. Okay, and it's a lot easier to breathe deeper when you have two inhales like that. So inhale, pause, inhale, and then a breath sigh on the exhale. Now, the problem with time compression is that when we are stressed, when we are under the pressure of time, our vision becomes what we call a tunnel vision. Our vision narrows and it becomes a tunnel vision. And tunnel vision has been directly associated with our perception of time. That is what creates time compression. So the way to get rid of it, or at least to minimize it, is to do the breath work that we just talked about, the cyclic sighing, to biologically reduce the heart rate and so on. But then at the same time, we want to broaden our vision and broaden our perspective. So the way we do that is we pick a point in front of us, as far in front of us as you can see. Keep your focus on that chosen point. And now put your hand in front of you, right hand, and move it to the side. You do not move your eyes. You keep it to the same focus point, but you're also looking at your hand in the peripheral vision. Okay? You do the same thing with the left hand. You move it to the side on the left. You do not move your eyes. They are still focused on the point you chose, but you also have your 2 hands in the periphery. And this broadens your perspective. So now do this while you are doing the breath work. So inhale, inhale again. Keep your focus in front of you to the point that you chose, and also look at the hands in the periphery to broaden your vision. Now, in the second step, we are going to reframe this mental threat. And you're simply going to tell yourself or think to yourself that I observe the pressure to rush, but I am not a victim of the rush. Okay? Just say it once in your mind while keeping the breathing and keeping your perspective, the broadened perspective. Now, if you're at work, it may be a little difficult to do the hand thing. So what you can do instead is to just look at the wall on the left and the wall on the right, or something, two things that you can focus on while you're looking straight ahead, and keeping your eyes there. This exercise is really efficient in terms of regaining your perspective of time and mitigating the time compression that takes place very often in our industry and in our work life when we are under so much stress to take a decision really, really quickly. I'll do one more thing with you and then we will stop, which is public speaking before public performance. We all have to do public performances in our work day almost daily. Whether we are presenting at a conference, presenting at a seminar, speaking in a panel, or whether we are presenting internally in front of colleagues to senior management, whatever, we are publicly performing all the time. There was a very serious study that was done by one of these big consultants, and they were asked by a client to help them understand why certain speakers, public speakers, get very high ratings and others don't, when the level of knowledge and expertise would suggest otherwise. So, this consultant did a study where they basically interviewed thousands and thousands of participants, attendees at conferences, and asked them to fill out all sorts of surveys. And they evaluated speakers based on their engagement with the crowd, their demeanor, their level of knowledge, their level of expertise, even their breathing patterns, where do they take the pauses, etc., 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 the tempo of the delivery, and so on. And you will be perhaps very surprised to learn that none of that came at the top of the list. What participants, the perception that participants had of a speaker was driven primarily by their voice. Within the first 15 seconds of any presentation, it appears that participants, consciously or unconsciously or subconsciously, already have some indication, they've made up some perspective or some idea or some perception of the speaker, simply based on how the speaker sounds, the tone of the voice, the projection of the voice, and so on. And certain speakers, highly skilled speakers, skilled in terms of their knowledge, got low ratings because of how their voice sounded. So the lesson is that before you go and perform publicly, whether it's externally or internally, do some voice exercises to recalibrate your voice. Get rid of the tension in the chest, in the throat, in the face, in the head, and make your sound, your voice sound better with more resonance and vibration. So in this particular case, it's a very simple exercise of doing a simple humming, right? Sit upright, feet well balanced on the ground, inhale for 4, and then exhale for 8 on a hum. And let's do this together, okay? So we will inhale for 4 and exhale on a low, gentle hum for 8. Ready? Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, and hum, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's do it one more time. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. A very simple exercise which will get rid of the tension and make you sound better. Now, if you want to improve this a little bit more, then you can do hum glide ups, hum glide downs, or hum sirens. The idea is to massage different parts of your body to get rid of the stress that may have accumulated in different parts of the body, but it's also to make your voice sound better at different pitches. Because when we speak, we don't speak on one note. We never speak on one note. Because if we were to speak on one note, we would sound like a robot. We would be like, hello, how are you doing? That's one note. We don't speak like that. We speak in a manner where we are varying our pitches. I just varied my pitch up and down, right? So if you want to maintain a good resonance in your voice while you're doing that, then do a hum glide up. Do something like this. Mm, Do it with me. Mm, mm. Or a hum glide down. Mm, mm, mm. Or do a hum siren. So you start sounding like a siren, but it's also going from a low pitch to a high pitch to a low pitch in a seamless way, massaging your body from the inside, getting rid of the stress, but at the same time, making your voice sound a lot better. Mm, mm, and so on. So let me finish with just reviewing this system at a glance. So basically, look, the composed performance model stipulates that performance is not a function of just skill. It's a function of skill times composure. It's a multiplicative effect. The performance gap is very evident in our work lives. It happens every day to different individuals. And it happens because skill determines the opportunity, but it doesn't determine the outcome. What determines outcome is composure. A key reframe here is that composure is trainable. You can absolutely acquire the skill of training your nervous system and deploying it in real life. You have to understand the levers of composure. Breath, voice, body, focus, and mindset are 5 levers that help you acquire this skill of getting to composure when you need to, using these 5 levers. You train in a low pressure environment using one lever at a time through foundations. And then you deploy that training in real life to access composure in order to access your skill set under pressure. So the result is that unlike the traditional model, which says that if you have skill, you can deliver consistent performance all the time, it doesn't work that way in real life, unfortunately. Yes, skill will definitely help you deliver good performance, but only if you can keep access to that skill under pressure. So the core takeaway is that what changes here is that skill creates opportunity, but composure determines outcome, and composure is trainable and deployable on demand. And I'd just like to mention that we've done all of this. So all of this is going to be delivered to you in the context of an upcoming app, which is called Vocami Fi for finance professionals. It's a tool that will help you implement composed performance. It will have many exercises. So it will have a 100 foundations. It will have situational boosts. science, articles, insights into why this matters, how you can condition composure, how you can regulate composure, and so on and so forth. And I'm very happy to let you know, and if you probably do know already, that CFA Society San Francisco is our lead partner in testing and validating this Wakamify app. And last Thursday in San Francisco, we had an in-person session with a focus group with some of the members that agreed or volunteered in that focus group. And it was a tremendous success, if I may say so. So more to come on Wakamify and so on. But for now, happy to take any questions that we have, Eric.
We have no questions in the queue. If you do have a question, feel free to raise your hand and we'll unmute you. We're not seeing any hands raised, Cal. So I want to thank you again for joining us today, for sharing your research and expertise on, neuroscience and physiology and your elite performance research and how you've kind of bundled it all together for us today. I think everyone will walk away with some new skills. And just a reminder, everyone, we will share the recording. Cal, are we still going to do a short survey on some of the practices with the folks?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So either a PDF form or a questionnaire will be forwarded to you guys. It will literally take you 3 minutes to fill out the very simple questionnaire. It's based on ratings. Literally, it will take 3 minutes, and we ask you to please do that if possible. And then we will make the results available to all of you and the analysis of the results back. We will send it back to all of you so you can see what the whole group thought of the presentation.
Fantastic. Thank you, Cal. It's been a pleasure. And we're very excited to launch Vocalmify with you. And we'll be keeping everyone up to date as we progress through the pilot.
Thank you so much for your support, guys. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Okay, goodbye.